What's up? So in today's video, I want to talk about 10 key points from Luigi Mangione's Manifesto. The question has to be asked, what drove this young man with so much potential to commit murder? Welcome to Jail, Great Elephant Law, where I break down the stories making waves. In this episode, we will unravel the mystery behind the shocking murder of United Healthcare's CEO. We're going to explore the facts, the theories, and what it all means for one of the most powerful corporations in the world. So let's get into it. So as many of you may have heard, Brian Thompson was the CEO of United Healthcare. He was tragically shot and killed on December 4th, 2024 in Manhattan while walking to an investor meeting. The suspect is 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. He was arrested 6 days later after an extensive manhunt in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Never heard of it, never been there, don't know what it's like there, but that is where they found this young man sitting in a McDonald's eating. He was arrested. Mangione allegedly harbored grievances against the healthcare industry as a whole, and that's evidenced by what we are going to talk about, look at, discuss, and see in his manifesto. Now, the incident has sparked discussion about the U.S. healthcare system and the increasing risks faced by corporate executives. So I do want to touch on that because our healthcare industry is really, really poor considering the wealth of our country. So who was Brian Thompson? Well, he was the CEO of United Healthcare, one of the biggest healthcare companies in the U.S. In fact, it's one of the largest and most profitable companies in the U.S. because it ranks only after Apple, Amazon, and Walmart. Those are the three people in front of a healthcare company that uses our money that we pay monthly for health insurance to turn massive profits. Not saying they shouldn't be profitable and make money, but if you've ever had claims denied that you clearly felt you needed, you needed a test, an x-ray, an MRI, you needed a prescription and they deny it. It appears that had a lot to do with this young man's disdain in general for the healthcare industry, and we don't know yet why he chose Brian Thompson. One can only speculate that maybe he had a family member or friend or a loved one who was denied a legitimate claim by this company. It's not justification for murder under any circumstance or any situation. However, it does bring to light a serious issue, and that is when we, being the members of the public, make a legitimate claim with our health insurance company for legitimate treatment or medication or whatever may be needed. We shouldn't be denied in the interest of profits over people. That's never going to be okay. Hopefully this situation forces the government, the legislatures, these insurance executives to revisit their policies and, issue out benefits more fairly to its paying members. So during Brian Thompson's tenure as CEO of United Healthcare, there were several criticisms. Number one being denial of claims. United Healthcare was frequently criticized for its high rate of claim denial. There are reports that indicate the company denied 32% of its claims, which is double the industry average of 16%. The practice caused widespread frustration among policyholders who face difficulties in getting necessary medical treatment covered. Number two, the second criticism that the company faced under Thompson's leadership was they were accused of making coverage policies more stringent. A ProPublica report highlighted that United Healthcare used an algorithm to restrict or reduce therapy costs, especially when it came to mental health coverage. This practice was deemed illegal in several states, California, Massachusetts, and New York for sure. A third criticism was, got to turn some heat off, I didn't got too hot. The third criticism was post-acute care denial. So what is that? There was a report by the Senate that noted that United Healthcare often denied coverage for post-acute care services needed by elderly patients recovering from falls or strokes. So imagine you have a family member, a grandparent who has a stroke or has a fall and they're injured. Well, that's an acute injury. If somebody falls and hits their head, that is an acute injury. There's no legitimate reason to deny treatment for acute injuries. It's not a pre-existing condition. Typically, it's not caused by the person or a third person. These are just elderly people who were having issues that elderly people have, and they were being denied coverage. The denial rate for those types of issues rose from 8.7% in 2019 to 22.7% in 2022. Makes no sense at all. And it certainly wasn't fair. So the fourth criticism they faced was there were allegations that they manipulated the stock, the value of the company. Thompson actually faced a lawsuit alleging that he and other executives conspired to inflate the company's stock price by withholding information from a Justice Department investigation into potential antitrust violations. The lawsuit claimed that Thompson profited $15 million from selling shares before the investigation became public. A fifth criticism is the fifth criticism, this really came after his death, after he was tragically murdered, because it was murder. He was killed. He didn't deserve to die for his policies or the profits he made. We need to fix the system, but murdering executives is not the way to go about doing it. So anyway, following his death, there was significant online outrage and some expressions of approval for his murder, reflecting deep-seated anger towards the healthcare system and insurance practices under his leadership. In fact, his wife reported that he had received threats related to issues of medical care. So I understand the frustrations. I don't understand the actions of Mr. Mangione, but I certainly understand the frustrations that he may have as well as others. And I hope this highlights the the situation we live in and exist in with our health insurance premiums that cost us a lot of money every month. And, we really only have two hopes. Number one is that we never get sick enough to have to use it. But number two is if we do, then we need them to step up, pay. I've been paying my premiums. Now it's your turn to pay. So let's look at some other stuff. Let's actually take a look at a video concerning Mr. Mangione. Actually, before we go through the video, I want to do something else. I actually want to go through his manifesto. So one of the things that was gleaned from his manifesto was, number one, a solo operation. Mangione claims he acted alone. In fact, he stated, "I wasn't working with anyone." Number two, he talked about his method. He described his approach as involving elementary social engineering, basic CAD, and a lot of patience. Number three, he actually apologized. Mangione expresses regret for any strife or trauma caused, but he insists it had to be done. So I don't know if that's truly an apology. Brian Thompson is no longer here. He had a wife, he had a family, he had children. I don't understand this apology. And I don't think we ever will. Number four is her justification. He refers to his targets as parasites who had it coming. So let's break that down. Parasites. He's claiming they're preying on the public. And look, the insurance industry they're not a nonprofit. They do exist to make a profit. But when your denial rate is twice the average of all the other companies, and it's cause for concern, and that concern should be addressed via litigation. Go out and hire a lawyer to fight the insurance company, or law firms to fight the insurance companies. In fact, we do that on a daily basis. I tell people all the time, if the insurance companies, whether that's automobile insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance, life insurance, anything you can get insurance on. If the insurance companies treated people fairly, I would have to go find something else to do. I would have to go find a new job. There would be a significant decrease in the need for attorneys. So when it comes to them being parasitic, there's some truth to that, but there are people, companies, entities that are fighting back. And it's in the private sector as well as the government. Sometimes the government steps in. Obviously, the government got wind that something was being done that may have violated antitrust laws, and actually looked into United Healthcare. So Mangione, he threw his life away, and his actions won't solve the problem. It may highlight it, bring public awareness, but it's not a solution. It's not justifiable. It's not acceptable, and honestly, it shouldn't be praised. Not taking a man's life. So, number 5, healthcare criticism. Mangione points out that the U.S. has the most expensive healthcare system globally, but ranks around 42nd in life expectancy. And that's true. I've actually done a lot of research on that. It makes no sense. You would think with the cost the price we pay for insurance, medication. I can give a personal example that prescriptions that I take. There was one. I take a medication for. I will never forget this. Take a medication for high blood pressure. It was $200 a month here, and the same prescription in another country that I could buy over the counter legally was $8. It makes no sense. In those countries, what I learned is that the government doesn't allow the pharmaceutical industry to charge their citizens an exorbitant amount. And guess what? The medications are still there. So what does that tell us? The pharmaceutical companies are still making a profit, even though they're not allowed to charge these exorbitant amounts for medication. And if there's anybody who travels internationally, you can check that. You can ask your friends what they take, ask them what it costs. Go to some of these countries where what requires a prescription here are sold over the counter, and you'll see that the prices are significantly less. Number 6 was corporate power. He mentions United Healthcare as one of the largest U.S. companies by market cap. I already touched on that. They trail only Google, Apple, and Walmart. I believe those are the 3 that are ahead of it. It may not be Google. It may be Apple, Amazon, and Walmart. That's what I think it is. Apple, Amazon, and Walmart. And then after that, a health insurance company that is funded by premiums that we pay on a monthly basis. Number 7, profit accusations. Mangione accuses healthcare companies of abusing the country for immense profit. Number 8, public complacency. He suggests that the American public has allowed these companies to become too powerful. It's not us. It's not the public. We're pawns, I would say, both for these multinational huge companies as well as for elected officials who allow this to happen. Number 9, Mangione admits the healthcare problem is more complex than he can fully articulate in the manifesto. And it's more complex than I can fully articulate in a live stream. But what I will say is that we just have to deal with it piece by piece. There's a lot of issues that need to be addressed. Pre-existing conditions, claims, approval, denial. A lot of times, and you don't take my word for it, you can go ask your primary care doctor, your surgeon, your therapist, whoever. They are the doctors. What treatment they can provide, what medication they can prescribe, what referrals they can give. These things are largely dictated by the health insurance company. It makes no sense. These doctors go to school for years and they have somebody who's sitting at an office somewhere telling them what they can and cannot do for a patient who they are physically examining, viewing, talking to. It's not right, and it needs to be addressed. And there's no easy, quick solution, but more authority and power needs to be given to the doctors who are actually treating patients. And there needs to be more restriction on the insurance company's ability to simply deny claims in the interest of profits. So that's pretty much what's in the manifesto. I want to go through a couple of videos now that have dealt with issues concerning Mr. Mangione, and then we may double back and pull up the manifesto to highlight some points, but that actually may not be necessary for what we're doing here.
The Elder Care Locator is here to help you live your best life as you age at home. Our call center advisors are ready to connect you with trustworthy local experts. Help is just a phone call away at 1-800-677-1116.
Ninja Turtles in Hero Wars. The legendary RPG Hero Wars welcomes new heroes to the battlefield. Unleash their full power in thrilling battles against sinister monsters.
I think part of what's so heartbreaking is knowing the potential he had.
It's being reported that the man accused of shooting a healthcare insurance CEO in the back in the middle of Midtown Manhattan had said, quote, "It had to be done." His apparent writings have been released, and it is giving us some insight into Luigi Mangione's possible motive for this targeted attack as he appears in court for the first time. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione might be one of the most famous people in the world right now, and we didn't even know who he was last week. He was arrested this week in Altoona, Pennsylvania at a McDonald's, of all places. Apparently, an employee called police, alerting them to the suspect in the restaurant, although there has been mixed reporting on this. Some say an employee overheard customers talking, others say it was reported directly to an employee, but either way, he was noticed in that McDonald's, and a man spoke with reporters Tuesday saying he was one of the people joking about whether it could be the shooter inside the location because, after all, talking about this, he looked eerily similar to surveillance photos that were released by the NYPD after the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And when police responded to that McDonald's, they ended up arresting Mangione on several charges unrelated to the shooting, by the way, because apparently he had a ghost gun in his possession as well as a fake ID. He appeared in court for the first time on Tuesday where he was denied bail, and we'll get a little bit more into that in a moment, but I want to talk about this reported handwritten note, or manifesto as it's being labeled. You see, Brian Thompson was killed 1 week ago on December 4th at around 6:45 a.m. as he walked to the Hilton Hotel for an investors conference. And surveillance footage shows this masked and hooded man lying in wait for Thompson and then approaching from behind and firing multiple shots. And ever since news about the shooting started to come out...
See, look at this. Look at this image. You know, the man's actions have been praised by some people, but this is just cold-blooded murder. He shoots a man in the back because he's frustrated about the health insurance industry, as far as we know up until this point.
There has been speculation that it might have something to do with health insurance coverage or health insurance costs or denials. Now, police say Thompson was targeted, and not long after that, his wife apparently told NBC News that she knew he had gotten some threats, but really there were not more details about that. And security experts have said, look, it's not uncommon for CEOs at major healthcare companies to get threats. It's a separate question of why he didn't have security with him, and we've been trying to figure that out. And especially since at the scene, and this was really bizarre, authorities recovered bullet casings with the words deny, defend, and depose on them. Words that are eerily similar to the 2010 book Delay, Deny, Defend. Why?
I've read this book, and there's a lot of truth in it. The number one reason is fairly simple. They deny the claims. They delay the claims. A, they hope you go away. B, maybe they hope you pass away. They deny the claims outright because that simply makes them more money. And then when delay and denial don't work, they will pay their lawyers to defend them in court. Now, these are companies that we pay monthly. You know, they should deny. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't deny claims that are not legitimate. They absolutely should. But it's on, like, classic example. If somebody calls me in there and they've been in a car wreck, they say, I need a lawyer. One of the first questions I ask them is, were you injured? If somebody says no, and they say, I'm not injured, but I still want to get money, well, I'm not the lawyer for you. That is not a legitimate claim. If you're not injured, just let them pay for your damage to your vehicle and y'all go your separate ways. So I do know claims, fake claims, or trumped up claims, or inflated claims do arise, and they should deny it because we don't want our premiums affected by it. But when you're denying when you delay, deny, and defend against legitimate claims, it's just not right. And when people reach out to their health insurance company to pay for medical treatment, they're usually in a state of desperation. They need help. They need treatment, and the doctor's recommended it. And some guy who's sitting, or a woman who's sitting in a desk somewhere, totally disconnected from the patient and the patient's needs, is denying their claims.
Insurance companies don't pay claims, or what you can do about it. And this is important because it points to a possible motive. Now, of course, motive is not an element of a crime when you're talking about the fact that he's been charged with murder in New York, but it definitely helps tell a story for a jury and for all of us. And as part of the investigation, understanding the why is incredibly, incredibly important.
No one seems to know this, but Amazon actually has a $50 million fund that they have to pay out every single month.
Now, authorities say that when they arrested Mangione in Pennsylvania, he had this handwritten manifesto, this writings, in his possession. And it specifically addressed grievances with the U.S. healthcare system. Now, an independent journalist named Ken Klippenstein released this manifesto, which was later confirmed to be the actual writings of Mangione by law enforcement. They confirmed.
So this is what happened when you're going live and you have kids. They come bringing you cheese dip to open. There's a thing in the kitchen that's made to open cans. It's black and gray. Bring it to me if you can't use it. All right, let's get back to Mangione.
Confirmed it. This is according to outlets like TMZ and Newsweek. Now, Klippenstein titled it Exclusive Luigi's Manifesto with the subheadline, Read the Manifesto the media refused to publish. Now, Klippenstein says in the post that this is the real one, not the forgery circulating online. Now, to be clear, there are parts of this handwritten manifesto that are ineligible. They're kind of hard to make out. This is according to Klippenstein. But we want to go through this document, and it says the following. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there.
So let's dissect this a little bit. Number one, he claims he wasn't working with anybody. Well, the law enforcement isn't going to take that and accept it. They still have to do their investigation, explore his background, find out who his friends were, who his acquaintances were. They're going to, make sure he was truly working alone. I'd imagine they're concerned, if not in law enforcement, certainly executives of other health insurance companies may be on high alert. So I do believe a lot of resources will be, public or private, resources will be devoted to determining if there's other people who were involved or if there are other people who are considering such a horrible action as to Mr. Mangione. So the guy was smart. He was a tech guy. I think he went to Stanford or Harvard. Stanford, I believe, was the school he went to. And he's come from a very privileged background. His family owned a radio station, and I believe they owned a lot of other things in the Northeast part of our country. So this wasn't, it's kind of confusing to me. In one instance, he's frustrated with the health insurance company or industry. However, it appears, and appears, because things aren't always as they appear, it appears that he may have come from a family with the means to actually pay for the care. So some of that stuff will come out. I'll try to follow his case all the way through the courts and go live as much as is necessary to discuss the developments in this case.
Engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The Spiral Notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart.
All right, we talked about that. Apple, Google, Walmart. It looks like they're ahead of Amazon. That is insane. But look, that's the reality.
It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is these, and then a word is kind of indecipherable.
So I want to say something here about the fact that our life expectancy hasn't grown. One of the things that Elon Musk said was that we need to make these GLP-1 drugs affordable, like really affordable for the public. I'm sure the pharmaceutical industry will still make a whole lot of money. But briefly, if we talk about these GLP-1 drugs, and these are Mounjaro, Ozempic, Wegovy, and Zepbound. These are, so let me explain it. Ozempic and Wegovy are the same things. They're the exact same drugs. One is for diabetes, one is for weight loss. Ozempic being for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and Wegovy being for weight loss. Mounjaro is also for diabetes, and Zepbound is the same drug as Mounjaro, exact same chemical makeup, but that one is prescribed for weight loss. Now, why do we need to lose weight? Well, essentially, every condition that prematurely ends human life is related to weight loss. There's cancer, heart disease, diabetes, strokes. All of this stuff has been linked to us being overweight. Now, why am I a big supporter of GLP-1 drugs? Number one, look at the research. The reason Americans are so overweight is because of the food industry and the pharmaceutical companies. And they've known actually since the 70s. There's research that shows they have known since the 70s that certain things they put in our food were going to make us overweight. And they knew about this GLP-1 drug, the way it influences certain hormones. They knew in the 70s, and now it's being rolled out as a wonder drug. Yeah, it's a wonder drug that we've known about for 50 years. And it's extremely expensive. And I agree with Elon Musk that we can significantly improve the health of a lot of people if we make these drugs affordable. So let's see what else Law and Crime Sidebar have on this video that we can talk about.
There have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, examples Rosenthal Moore, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. So essentially, this could be interpreted as an admission. It could potentially be used against him at trial. We actually dedicated a whole sidebar episode with Professor of Law Jules Epstein going over all the evidence in this case, particularly these writings, their potential value and admissibility at trial. So I encourage everybody to check that out. But it is interesting to note that he says he acted alone which was a central question we all had before his arrest. Questions about how just a seemingly random member of the public might have had information about Thompson, where he was going, when he was going at that exact moment. Yes, we knew there was an investors conference, but how exactly he knew he'd be walking on that street at that time. And also there was this question about, was it a contract killing? Was it a professional hit? He is saying he acted alone. So taking it as true, that's a definitely big insight that we wanted to have. By the way,
chores look different with Cox multi-gig speeds. Power all your devices.
considering the stories that we cover, we are very big here at Sidebar and Law and Crime with self-protection. And with that in mind, did you know that apparently just home title fraud is rampant right now? Yeah, so I met with the people over at Home Title Lock, our amazing partner and sponsor. They freaked me out. This is an example of a fraudulent quitclaim deed. It got filled out with my information, a forged signature, fake notary seal. Not only can my property just get transferred behind my back, but the scammers, they go after the equity. They take out loans using your home as collateral, and they do all this, they disappear, they leave you with a legal and financial nightmare. But that is where Home Title Lock comes in to give you peace of mind, especially with their triple lock protection, because that gets you 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and restoration services at no out-of-pocket 30-day free trial of their trip reports. That a spiral notebook, which was what he seemed to reference, was also found. And it included a to-do list. Now, CNN says the writing inside the notebook referred to the possibility of using a bomb to presumably kill Thompson. But the writer, again, presuming this is Mangione, reportedly decided against it because it could, quote, kill innocents. And CNN also reports that the writer mused that it couldn't get any better than to, quote, kill the CEO at his own bean counting conference, seemingly in reference to the fact that Thompson was on his way to the company's annual investors conference when he was killed. By the way, talking bombs, it's being reported that there is one section there, this is being reported by CNN, where he talks about Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Now that might not be...
No, we can see this guy is idolizing domestic terrorists. And but for the fact that he only killed one person, he probably would be labeled a domestic terrorist. It certainly is. He's a murderer, no doubt. And all these people he's praising don't deserve to be praised at all. His actions don't deserve to be praised. I know he has a lot of support. I'd imagine a lot of that support is from people who are frustrated in their own lives with the health insurance industry, which I get. And I hope I hope all of this really forces the people in power to look at this industry as a whole and fix it, like literally fix it. I can recall a situation where I thought I tore my pec muscle in my chest. And, I couldn't exercise for a while. I couldn't bench press. I couldn't lift. I could barely pick up my 2-year-old son for a while. And the doctor ordered an MRI. I certainly didn't have a pre-existing condition with my pec muscle. And it was denied. They actually never approved it. They sent me to physical therapy. They approved medication, but they never allowed the doctor to get an MRI, which is an image of the tissue to see if there was some structural damage. Now, had the problem not improved over time, I probably would have just sued them. But I'm a lawyer, and it's expensive, and I understand why people... Look, if a person is in need of medical care and they're strapped for cash, the last thing they have money to do is hire a lawyer to fight the case in court. And then it may be difficult to find a lawyer for these types of cases because it's very expensive to litigate such a case, and it's... There's so much wiggle room for this industry to avoid payment that you may just be spinning your wheels.
Entirely surprising because according to his social media activity, more specifically this Goodreads account that has been reportedly linked to him, which has since been made private, it reportedly revealed that he had recently read and rated a manifesto written by Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, titled Industrial Society and Its Future. In that review, he praises the manifesto, saying, clearly written by a mathematics prodigy, it's simply impossible to ignore how prescient many of his predictions about modern society turned out. There's also this internal police report that was obtained by the New York Times that also gives us a little more insight into this as well, because according to the Times, Mangione appeared to view the targeted killing of the company's highest-ranking representative as a symbolic takedown and a direct challenge to its alleged corruption and power games.
All right, let's look at this statement. It's not his statement, it's the NYPD internal report. However, it does, obviously, if from the video, it appears he targeted the gentleman. He approached him from behind, shot him several times. A symbolic takedown? Well, he didn't take down anything, folks. He didn't take down anything. He didn't take down anyone. United Healthcare still exists. United Healthcare will have a new CEO. United Healthcare will continue its business as usual to a large degree. They may pull back a little bit because they're under public scrutiny with respect to these denial of claims, but unless something is seriously done, significantly done by those in power, by our government, by our legislators, eventually it'll be back to business as usual, and we will forget about Brian Thompson, we will forget about Luigi Mangione, and the insurance company will forget that it's not right for them to deny legitimate claims.
And that he vows himself as a hero of sorts who has finally decided to act upon such injustices. And I want you to keep all this in mind. Why? Because Mangione faced a Pennsylvania judge at the Blair County Courthouse on Tuesday. And as he was taken out of a police car to be led inside the courthouse, he turns to reporters and appears to shout, "This is completely unjust and an insult to the intelligence of the American people."
That's completely unjust and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Not really sure what that was in reference to, but you know what's also weird? Cameras weren't allowed inside the courthouse, but our very own Sierra Gillespie was there. And she told us yesterday during...
It's not an insult. The American people know. Many of us have had claims denied, legitimate claims denied, or know people, family members, or friends who have had claims denied. So it's... His actions aren't gonna fix our problems. It's up to the people we put in power, the elected officials, to address this. Otherwise, it's just gonna continue.
Her live hit that when she was in that courtroom, Mangione seemed to want to say something in open court, or was trying to say something, but was shot down by his lawyer. And speaking of that, by the way...
Well, clearly there's nothing wrong with that. It's his lawyer's job to limit what he has to say. It's up to his lawyer to instruct his client. You know, sometimes you just simply have to tell them to be quiet, shut up, stop talking. You're going to only make things worse. So the fact that his lawyer stepped in and hushed him and told him to be quiet, I don't see any issues with that. And in fact, I've done that several times myself, and I completely understand why his lawyer would do that.
Any evidence that links the gun that was found on his person to the crime. So these are things that we're looking to...
This is Thomas Dickey, his lawyer. I have not been made aware of any evidence that links the gun that was found on his person to the crime. So these are things that we're looking to see. So if you look at that, when a crime initially occurs, as a defense lawyer, you don't see the evidence. We see very little. We may be able to get our hands on the affidavit fairly early in the process, but majority of the evidence we have to wait until the person is formally charged by the district attorney, and they're whether it's be a bill of information or a grand jury indictment. And then after that, the person has to be arraigned, where the arraignment is where you enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. Pretty much everybody enters a not guilty plea at arraignment. In fact, most judges won't even allow people to plead guilty at an arraignment. I've seen it happen in misdemeanor cases, but outside of that, the plea that's entered is typically going to be a not guilty plea. But on top of what his lawyer is saying is that, I'm telling you, we still have a presumption of innocence in this country. A person is innocent, is presumed innocent unless and until they're found guilty. And if we take that away from Mangione, we're taking it away from ourselves. So we have to respect, honor, and appreciate that. There are countries where people are presumed guilty and they have to prove their innocence, and that is not good. That is not what we want here. We don't want to convict him based on what the police say. We don't want to convict him based on what public opinion is. Let all the facts come out. Let his lawyers fight it in court. If he's guilty, then let justice be done. If he's not guilty, then justice still should be done. In a lot of cases where there's a death, there is a need, a desire, a want for somebody to pay justice. But I always say, is it really justice if we put the wrong person in prison? No, it's not. In fact, we've created a second victim. So that we have to maintain and preserve and protect and honor and respect the presumption of innocence. Otherwise, we're going to live in a country that's chaotic. And look, we already have enough chaos, but it's not completely chaotic. So, look, I get what this lawyer is saying. I understand it. I appreciate it. And I just find nothing wrong with his statements.
The problem is that CNN reported later on in the day after his GMA appearance that law enforcement officials say fingerprints from the crime scene are now a positive match to Mangione. If that is true, that is a major piece of evidence in this case because, as CNN notes, this is the first big forensic link between Mangione and the shooting. Now, before this happened,
that may be true. Maybe they did find fingerprints. Did they turn them over to his lawyer? Probably not. Because, look, the news reporters, they may have some inside connection with the NYPD, or his lawyer probably doesn't. And the last person they want to get their hands on evidence is his lawyer, because the sooner the lawyer gets their hands on the evidence, the sooner he can start attacking it, addressing it, pushing back against it. So they try to, in most police investigations, they want to build a case to be as strong and as solid as possible before the defense lawyer starts poking holes in it.
Questioned by reporters outside of the courthouse yesterday, Dickey reminded everyone that Mangione, like every other defendant, is innocent until proven guilty.
If you're an American, you believe in the American criminal justice system, you have to presume him to be innocent. And none of us would want anything other than that if that were us in those shoes. And so I'm glad he has some support.
I agree with that statement. If it was me, one of my children, one of my friends, a random stranger, a guy who hired me that I don't know, or somebody who found me on Google, I want all of these people, every last one of them, to be given the presumption of innocence. If you're charged with a crime in this country, it is extremely difficult to win. You have whatever police department that is investigating it, you have all of their resources against you. Whatever district attorney's office is prosecuting you, you have all of their resources against you. Typically, you, the defendant, the person whose freedom is on the line, has one lawyer, or maybe a team of lawyers if you're lucky and fortunate and financially able. But you have the lawyer and his staff, usually 1-2-man show, with a few paralegals and secretaries helping in the background. But that is the typical criminal defense team, very small. So yes, he should be given a presumption of innocence, because it doesn't level the playing field. The deck is always stacked if you're charged with a crime, but it certainly pushes back a little bit.
You said a moment ago that that's what lawyers do when telling their clients to be quiet. What did you mean by that?
Well, no, I mean, because I'm going to do all the talking. You know, you have the right to remain silent, and I believe in that right. We did not waive extradition. We're contesting extradition. We're going to fight this along the rules and with the constitutional protections that my client has, and that's what we're going to do.
So I want to touch on a couple of things here. I've made many videos reminding people of your right to remain silent. You have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent if you're the subject of an investigation. 99.999% of the times, you need to exercise that right. You need to talk to a lawyer, criminal defense lawyer, before you waive any rights that are available to you. The other thing Mangione's lawyer talked about was, let's go back for a second.
Extradition, we're going to fight this along the rules and with the constitutional protections that my client has, and that's what we're going to do.
They're going to fight the extradition. Now, Mangione, eventually the guy's going to be extradited back to New York to face a jury for the crimes he allegedly committed. But there are legitimate reasons to fight the extradition. One, maybe he's going to argue or has evidence or has support for the position that his client was never in the state of New York. Or maybe he wants to use this as an opportunity to question or cross-examine witnesses in the state of Pennsylvania. But whatever his reasons are, it's within his purview, his right for his client to fight the extradition. Even if he loses, it may give him some nuggets of information and evidence that he can use in the trial that ultimately will happen in the state of New York. This lawyer isn't from New York. He's a Pennsylvania lawyer. He's not licensed there, but he's been practicing over 40 years. So we do have something that's called pro hoc vice, which basically means that if you have a lawyer who, let's say your lawyer is licensed in the state of Texas, and he or she has never been licensed in the state of Louisiana, however they want to handle a case here, well, they can apply to be admitted pro hoc vice. Now, it's pretty, as long as a lawyer's in good standing in his home state, typically that's not an issue. You do have to get a local attorney, so someone who's in Louisiana in our scenario, to assist you on the case. That is a requirement.
So for now, Mangione was denied bail. He's going to be staying in a Pennsylvania jail, and his attorney said he is pleading not guilty to the forgery and gun charges that he faces in Pennsylvania, and that he doesn't have enough information about the charges in New York to comment. But Mangione, who grew up in Baltimore, was valedictorian at his elite high school. He attended the University of Pennsylvania for both bachelor's and master's degrees. He has been described by people who knew him as someone who was incredibly smart and kind. Pretty much everyone who has spoken to the media so far about his arrest has said that they were shocked that this came out of nowhere, that they never could imagine Mangione could do something so horrific and drastic. In fact, one of his former roommates echoed those same feelings when we spoke with him on Tuesday.
That's all interesting, but you really just never know. You never know what trauma a person is dealing with or has dealt with. and how that might affect them long term. So it appears that some of the friends or some of the people who know him are basing their opinions of him on the person they knew at the time. So I'll touch on briefly, but in a subsequent video I may discuss it more, that this man had an injury. He had an injury, he sought help, he apparently was denied help. And who knows what that did to him psychologically, how that affected his psyche, what person he became compared to the person he was when these people knew him.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car.
With that being said, we just kind of got to let it all play out, find out who we're dealing with and why we're dealing with him in the state that he now operates in.
Reported that the man accused, and that he doesn't have enough out of nowhere. So for now, Mangione was denied bail. He's going to be staying in a Pennsylvania jail, and his attorney said he is pleading not guilty to the forgery and gun charges that he faces in Pennsylvania, and that he doesn't have enough information about the charges in New York to comment. But Mangione, who grew up in Baltimore, was valedictorian at his elite high school. He attended the University of Pennsylvania for both bachelor's and master's degrees. He has been described by people who knew him as someone who was incredibly smart and kind. Pretty much everyone who has spoken to the media so far about his arrest has said that they were shocked that this came out of nowhere, that they never could imagine Mangione could do something so horrific and drastic. In fact, one of his former roommates echoed those same feelings when we spoke with him on Tuesday. R.J. Martin. He started this small co-living space in Hawaii during COVID and says that Mangione applied to be a member.
He never once mentioned guns or violence. He wasn't even into MMA. Wasn't really a big watcher of sports even. From all I believe he had no prior knowledge in that field. And I think what makes this really hard is that, he was one of the smartest, one of the most compassionate, one of the most present people I knew, such a great listener, had natural, leadership by leading by example, and because people knew he was genuine. And I think part of what's so heartbreaking is knowing the potential he had, and to know that, now that's lost. He really had everything going for him. People loved him. He had a great, well-paying job. He was one of those people that I think we would look towards to help make and affect change in the right direction to help others. So I think that's part of what makes...
Look, maybe Mangione could have been that person. Maybe he could have been an amazing person to step to the forefront, and he could have ran for political office. He could have enrolled in law school. He could have started some sort of public awareness campaign. Anything really other than violence. It sounds like from this guy that we have just listened to that he was a good person, with a compassionate person, and he thinks his actions were an act of compassion and looking out for the public, but they're unacceptable. There were other avenues he could have taken to
I think part of what's so heartbreaking is knowing the potential
to look out for others. And so what he chose to do is just, it's not going to do anything for him. It's not going to do anything for us. And all he did was inflict pain and loss and heartache on Brian Thompson's family. And that is not okay. So let's finish this sidebar video.
And so difficult to process. He really was among the best and the brightest that we have in his generation.
We asked Martin about this alleged back injury that Mangione was reportedly dealing with that caused him a lot of pain. In fact, Mangione had previously posted a photo of this spinal x-ray on his social media, but we weren't able to verify if that's actually Mangione's x-ray. But his friends said that he had become withdrawn in recent months. And if we're talking about him allegedly killing a health insurance CEO, talking about a surgery, something to think about.
My understanding is it was either an injury or some sort of pre-existing condition that he'd had before he moved to Hawaii, and that his spine had a misalignment, like forward and back. And I think he showed me the x-rays of that too. So his nervous cord was being pressed, and I believe his discs. It was one of those interesting injuries where, you know, one day he could perhaps be athletic and do something, and then the next day just immobile and stuck in bed. Which, thank God he had healthy days, right? After we spoke about the surgery and his recovery via text, I followed up, I think it was like March, April, May, each month, just a text message checking in saying, hey bro, how you doing? What's going on? And didn't hear from him. So the last, communication that I had from him was this spring, excuse me. And I didn't take it as odd that he wasn't following up. I just assumed maybe he had permanently moved back to the East Coast. Maybe he'd started a new job. I just knew that when we were back in the same location, the same sphere, we'd meet up, our friendship, we'd go to the park and do a workout, or, do something fun we enjoyed doing together, when he was back on Oahu.
Again, trying to get some understanding of Mangione's background, and if these allegations are true, his motivations. Now, the attorneys in Mangione's Pennsylvania case, they were given deadlines to file their paperwork for the extradition hearing. We're going to keep an eye on anything as it develops. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always...
Wow. So there we have it. In the videos that follow, I'm going to break down Mangione's lawyer. He was interviewed. And I'm just going to stay abreast on what's happening in this case, what's happening in the health insurance industry. And so I'd like to know, leave a comment in the video. Let me know, what do you think about Luis Mangione, his case, the prospects of him being found not guilty, what kind of evidence you think they may develop. Just let me know. Let me know in the comments. Leave a comment. If I'll either reply via text to your comments. If not, I'll answer any questions you have in subsequent videos. So with that being said, just leave me a few comments and let's see where we go. If you enjoyed this video, you see the little tickler at the bottom of the screen there. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also go live on Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms, but mainly YouTube. So take care, be safe, and I will see you guys next time.
In the courtroom's tall and bright, great elephant stands with might. Justice served both day and night. Great elephant in the light, wears a suit that's always neat. Every client he will greet, victory never feels defeat. Great elephant can't be beat. Great elephant, fighting for the right. Great elephant, shining truth so bright. When the gavel strikes the wood, great elephant does all he could. Wins the battles like he should. In the law he's understood. Always calm and always fair. In the courtroom with a stare. Great elephant does declare injustice won't be spared. Great elephant, fighting for the right. Great elephant, shining truth so bright.
All right, take care, folks. I just wanted to let y'all hear my little song. I use this AI tool called Suno. Y'all should check it out. It allows you to create songs. I have about 8 songs that I'm going to share throughout this journey. Good night. Stay safe. See you soon.